Welcome to Hibernation Universe, a place where cosmic wonders drift slowly across the mind, and where impossible worlds breathe quietly in the dark. Tonight, we travel to a planet shaped by storms and by dragons. Welcome to Stormscale. Tonight, we turn our focus toward a distant world, gently suspended in the outer regions of the Draconis Nebula, a place whose existence would feel like myth, if not for the patient instruments that captured its faint, shimmering signature. This is Stormscale, a planet whose identity has been forged not by oceans or tectonics alone, but by titanic storms that resemble living dragons, curling across its skies for centuries at a time. The birth of Stormscale. Stormscale formed nearly 5.4 billion years ago, slightly older than Earth, within a region dense with magnetized interstellar dust. Early in its formation, the swirling protoplanetary disk contained unusually high concentrations of ferrocrystalline particles, tiny metallic grains that responded dramatically to the magnetic fluctuations of the young star at its center. When lightning cascaded through the thick primordial atmosphere, these metallic grains fused, cracked, and reformed in intricate patterns. Over millions of years, this process seeded the planet with its namesake phenomenon: scale wind storms, vast sheets of shimmering vapor and metallic dust that glint like the iridescent scales of mythical serpents. These storms, initially random, slowly developed structure. They spiraled, they stretched, and eventually, they formed the outlines of creatures, dragon-like, but made entirely of wind and light. Seen from orbit, Stormscale glows like a fractured gemstone. Its continents are jagged, shimmering with bands of reflective mineral deposits that catch the nearby starlight. The oceans are deep turquoise, tinged with crystalline particles that drift like luminous plankton. Slow, shimmering auroras appear even at low latitudes, interacting with the planet's unusually strong magnetic field. Stormscale's axis tilt is mild, only 7 degrees, so seasons are nearly non-existent. Yet the world constantly shifts, not from seasonal changes, but from the pulsing interaction between the core and atmosphere. Stormscale's molten interior generates electrical surges that rise through the crust, feeding atmospheric storms and shaping the planet's climate in a way almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Dragon-shaped storms. The world's defining feature, the one that gave rise to countless legends across observing civilizations, is its draconic storm patterns. These storms stretch thousands of kilometers, persist for decades, coil like serpents in slow, majestic arcs, emit faint electrical glows resembling halos or wings, shift color between emerald, gold, and violet. Their shapes are not random. Stormscale's atmosphere contains ferrolumin particles, which react to magnetic currents and electric charges. When the magnetic field lines twist and intersect, they naturally force clouds into branching, curling structures that resemble the flowing form of mythic dragons. They are not alive, but they feel alive. A single storm dragon can glide across the atmosphere for an entire century, circling the equator like a luminous guardian. A planet of rhythmic change. Stormscale breathes through cycles. Every 47 years, a surge from the core triggers a global atmospheric resonance, an event where all the storm dragons briefly brighten, as though the entire sky is exhaling. Then, slowly, they dim again. Early civilizations that observed Stormscale from afar believed these were signs of a colossal living entity, sleeping, dreaming, awakening. While science gives us explanations, the wonder remains untouched. Despite its storms, Stormscale is peaceful on the surface. Winds are gentle, Rain falls softly, shimmering as it catches sunlight. Lightning rarely touches the ground at all. Instead, it dances high in the sky in slow, graceful arcs, illuminating the clouds like glowing veins. It is a world that looks violent from afar, but feels serene from within. A world sculpted by forces both predictable and mysterious. A world whose identity lies not in chaos, but in breathtaking, ordered beauty. A world where the sky itself becomes a canvas and the storms become dragons. Life on Stormscale. Now, we descend toward the surface, where the air is thick with shimmering particles, and where the ecosystems have evolved not in spite of the dragons in the sky, but because of them. Atmosphere and climate. Stormscale's air is rich in ionized vapor and metallic dust, giving it a subtle glitter when the sun passes overhead. The breathable regions lie mostly near the coasts, where winds carry softer air. Temperature swings are mild, and humidity is high, creating lush environments filled with dense forests, glowing marshlands, and towering crystal formations. Flora. Luminescent trees. The world's iconic trees stand 40 to 60 meters high, coated in reflective bark that scatters light into soft halos. During storms, the particles in the air respond to electrical activity, causing the bark to pulse gently like a heartbeat. Glass vine networks. Vines made of semi-translucent fibers creep along the ground and up rock formations. They are flexible but harden during electrical surges, forming natural bridges and lattice structures. Storm orchids. Small flowers with petals that hum softly when charged by airborne electricity. The sound is calming, like distant singing, and locals describe these fields as the choir of the planet. Fauna. Stormscale is home to a variety of creatures adapted to its shimmering, electrically active environment. Skyrays. Gentle, manta-like creatures that float using gas bladders and magnetic organs. They drift lazily near mountain peaks, sometimes illuminated by stormlight. Scalehounds. Quadrupedal mammals with iridescent fur that shifts color based on mood. They are curious, friendly, and often found near riverbanks hunting for glowing fish. Ember owls. Birds with feathers that flicker like candlelight. Their eyes reflect stormlight, giving them a wise, almost otherworldly expression. Dragons of Stormscale. Stormscale is famous for its storms, but it is also home to real dragons, biological creatures, though far more diverse and peaceful than legend suggests. Cloud weavers. These dragons glide through the upper atmosphere, riding thermal currents. They are enormous, wingspans of 200 meters, but incredibly light. The shimmering dust in the air gathers around them, creating trails that look like brushstrokes of illuminated smoke. Ground serpent. Massive, serpentine dragons that slither through mineral-rich soil. Their scales absorb and store heat. When they surface, the surrounding air ripples in waves. Auric drakes. Small, bright gold dragons that hover like hummingbirds. They feed on charged insects and are known to interact with humans, curious, gentle, and playful. Stormcallers. The apex dragons. Mystical, ancient, and deeply connected to the planet's magnetic field. Their wings generate low-frequency vibrations that influence the shape and movement of storm dragons in the sky. They are not rulers, but guardians. Their presence keeps balance. Stormscale contains unique minerals found nowhere else. Ferrolumin crystals. Crystals that glow when near electrical fields. Used by native species for navigation and communication. Drake silver. A rare metallic ore with a soft luminescence. Its reflective properties shape the colors that appear in the sky. Stormglass. formed under immense electrical pressure. Translucent, beautiful, resonant when struck. Used naturally by creatures like sky rays to build protective hollows. Ecosystem harmony. All life on Stormscale is interconnected. The creatures rely on the storms for light, energy, and seasonal cycles. And the storms are shaped in subtle ways by the dragons that inhabit the skies. It is a world not of conflict, but of intricate balance. A planet where every living thing breathes in rhythm with the heartbeat of the storms. Even though Stormscale rotates around its sun with a gentle, almost perfectly aligned axis, the planet does not experience seasons the way Earth does. There are no winters or summers, no dramatic shifts in temperature or changes in daylight. Instead, Stormscale moves through a series of subtle atmospheric cycles known as magnetic seasons, each one shaped by the steady pulse of energy rising from deep within the planet's core. These seasons do not mark the passing of heat or cold, but the movement of charge, the mood of the sky, and the slow, graceful breathing of the storms. The first of these is known simply as the calm period. This is the quiet phase in the planet's magnetic rhythm, when the core releases only a faint whisper of energy into the crust and atmosphere. During this time, the storm dragons high above drift more slowly, their luminous bodies dimmed to soft shades of silver and pale blue. The skies appear clearer, though never truly empty, and the air carries a stillness that settles over the forests and oceans like a gentle exhale. Creatures on the surface become more relaxed and unhurried, gliding rather than flying, wandering rather than migrating. Nights stretch longer and feel softer, as though the entire world is resting beneath a blanket of calm light. As the calm period fades, the planet moves into what observers call the silver surge. This season begins almost imperceptibly, with the faint shimmering of metallic dust rising higher into the atmosphere. Gradually, currents of energy begin to build, and soft pulses of electricity thread through the clouds. The storm dragons brighten, their outlines becoming clearer against the sky, as if awakened from a conserving slumber. The forests respond as well. Luminescent trees pulse faintly through the night, their bark glowing in rhythm with the subtle fluctuations overhead. Oceans ripple with lines of light that spread across their surfaces, as if brushed by a silver fingertip. It is a time of renewal, of quiet stirring, when every organism feels slightly more awake. Eventually, the silver surge grows into the great spiral. This is the most dramatic of the magnetic seasons, though still slow and gentle enough not to disturb the tranquil nature of the planet. During the great spiral, the core's energy output reaches its peak, and the atmosphere becomes a canvas of swirling, interconnected storms. The storm dragons stretch and lengthen, their bodies illuminated in hues of emerald, violet, and gold. They begin to dance around the equator in a vast, coordinated flow, as though following a melody only they can hear. Lower in the sky, clouds twist into spiral formations that echo the shapes above, creating layers of movement that drift across the sky like living art. The nights glow brighter during this season, lit from within by the shimmering storms that rise above the horizon. Creatures on the surface often gather near open spaces, watching the sky as if attending a celestial performance. The great spiral can last for many months, slowly building, slowly fading, until the storms loosen their formations and drift apart once again. As this occurs, the planet enters a quiet, enchanted phase known as the luminous night. During this season, the atmosphere retains a gentle charge from the long spiral, but the storms themselves become soft and diffuse. Instead of bright, defined shapes, the sky fills with faint halos of light that drift silently across the darkness. It is during the luminous night that the air sparkles most visibly, as tiny particles of ferrolumin dust catch whatever starlight reaches the planet's surface. Forests glow faintly in response, and even the oceans emit soft bands of radiant color that follow the tides. The nights feel longer than time itself, stretching in serene layers of quiet illumination that soothe the mind and invite deep rest. When the luminous night cycle finishes its slow fade, Stormscale returns to the calm period. The storms dim, the air settles, and the world seems to sigh with relief. The cycle continues endlessly, not in sharp transitions, but in smooth, gentle arcs of change, like the turning of pages in a cosmic book written in light. These magnetic seasons are the heartbeat of Stormscale. They guide the behavior of the sky dragons, shape the growth of the forests, influence the movements of creatures, and define the rhythm of life itself. Each season blends into the next, forming a seamless pattern of calm, awakening, brilliance, and soft return. To watch these seasons unfold is to watch a world breathe in slow motion, a planet whose pulse can be felt even from orbit. And as you drift with these rhythms, you begin to understand that Stormscale is not simply a world filled with storms. It is a living harmony of energy and stillness, of motion and peace. A world where the sky tells time, and the storms tell stories. Although Stormscale has no native intelligent species, its presence has quietly shaped the beliefs of many civilizations that observed it from light years away. Long before humans ever pointed their instruments toward the Draconis Nebula, other cultures had already woven Stormscale into their star-born mythologies. The planet's shimmering storms and dragon-shaped cloud formations were interpreted as signs, omens, guardians, or celestial storytellers. To some, Stormscale was a dream made visible. To others, it was a warning. But to all, it was unforgettable. The earliest known records come from an ancient culture called the Sereti, explorers who traveled through the nebula long before humanity developed spaceflight. Their star maps describe a world they called the Sleeping Sky Serpent. They believed Stormscale was the resting place of an immense cosmic being, a creature so vast that its heartbeat could be felt in the storms. According to their myths, every few centuries the serpent would briefly stir, causing the storms to glow brighter and curl into tighter spirals. This was seen not as a threat, but as a blessing, a moment when the universe itself shifted slightly, adjusting its posture like a giant at rest. Even though the Sereti eventually vanished, their stories remained preserved in the archives of nearby civilizations, offering one of the earliest poetic interpretations of the planet's magnetic cycles. Another civilization, the Oricur nomads, saw Stormscale not as a sleeping creature, but as a teacher. They believed the storm dragons were manifestations of wisdom, not alive, but alive enough to guide. When Oricur navigators traveled between star systems, they would meditate on carefully drawn images of Stormscale's cloud patterns. They claimed the shapes revealed paths of least resistance through cosmic storms, asteroid fields, and gravitational anomalies. Whether this practice had any scientific merit remains unknown, but it is true that Oricur navigators were renowned for their remarkable ability to travel uncharted regions with ease. To them, Stormscale was a compass shaped by light. Far across the nebula, a quiet and contemplative group known as the Star Monks developed an entirely different relationship with the planet. They believed Stormscale was a shrine built by the universe itself. The monks traveled in small, silent vessels, drifting slowly through space as they followed what they called the path of the coiling sky. Their pilgrimage led them near Stormscale once in their lives, at a moment chosen by their own inner intuition. When they reached the planet, they would meditate for days, watching the storm dragons shift across the sky. They believed these motions reflected the inner storms of the self, thoughts, emotions, memories, and that by observing the dragons dissolve into calm spirals, they too could learn to quiet their minds. Some of their writings describe moments when the sky seemed to speak without words, guiding them toward deeper insight. Whether these were spiritual experiences, illusions created by exhaustion, or simply the overwhelming beauty of the storms remains a mystery, but the tradition continued for centuries. As humanity eventually ventured far enough to detect Stormscale, new myths began to form, not out of fear or reverence, but out of wonder. Early astronomers, observing the vast luminous storms through telescopes, believed they might be witnessing atmospheric megafauna, creatures made of charged particles drifting through the sky. Some even proposed that Stormscale was a partially conscious planet, reacting to cosmic events through patterns in its storms. Though these theories were eventually replaced by scientific explanations, the fascination persisted. Many researchers admitted, often quietly in their journals, that even with all their understanding, Stormscale still felt alive in a way they could not fully describe. Other cultures developed gentler interpretations. In the small colony of Helio Reach, children grew up hearing bedtime stories about the Auric Guardians, small golden dragons said to carry messages between the stars. According to the tales, when the luminous night season bathed the planet in soft halos of light, the Auric Guardians would emerge from the shimmering forests and rise into the sky, becoming sparks that danced with the storm dragons overhead. These stories had no scientific foundation, yet they sparked a generation of explorers who dreamed of one day seeing Stormscale with their own eyes. One of the most enduring myths speaks of the night spiral, a rare cosmic alignment that cultures believed would one day awaken the planet. The story claimed that during the Great Spiral season, if the storm dragons formed a perfect ring around the equator and glowed with violet light, Stormscale would open a hidden gateway, a passage not through space, but through understanding. To some civilizations, this meant enlightenment. To others, it meant transformation. No one knew what the gateway symbolized, but the idea took hold across multiple star systems. Millennia passed without the event ever occurring, yet the legend remained alive, waiting for a moment that may never come. Across all these myths, one theme remained consistent. Stormscale was more than a planet. To those who watched it from afar, it was a presence, a reminder that the universe still held mysteries shaped not by war or survival, but by beauty. The storms were seen not merely as weather patterns, but as expressions of something deeper, something that resonated with the minds of those who gazed upon them. Even now, as explorers study Stormscale with advanced instruments and gather data with precision unimaginable to earlier civilizations, the myths persist. They linger like soft echoes behind every scientific explanation, reminding us that wonder does not disappear when knowledge arrives. Instead, the two coexist, gently intertwining like the luminous spirals drifting across Stormscale sky. And as we drift with these echoes, listening to the old stories carried across star systems, we begin to sense why so many cultures were drawn to this world. Stormscale does not demand belief or worship. It simply exists, glowing softly in the dark, inviting anyone who looks upon it to pause and dream. For countless generations, Stormscale existed only as a distant, shimmering wonder, admired from afar but never approached. Its storms, its glowing atmosphere, its drifting dragon-shaped currents. These were sights observed through telescopes and remote imagers, studied from safe distances by civilizations both ancient and new. Yet eventually, curiosity grew stronger than caution. Humanity, along with a few neighboring colonies, decided to attempt the impossible, to visit Stormscale directly, to see its mysteries not as faint impressions across light years, but as living, breathing phenomena beneath their feet. The first missions were unmanned, delicate probes launched during the calm period, when the planet's magnetic field rested in its gentlest state. These early explorers were small machines, almost timid in design, built with flexible panels and soft edges to avoid catching the fierce electrical winds. As they dipped into the upper atmosphere, their sensors trembled with readings never before recorded. The air itself shimmered with charged particles, and the clouds, though soft to the eye, carried intricate magnetic patterns that shifted like woven silk. One probe drifted through the silhouette of a storm dragon and captured the first close-up images of its interior. Not a creature, but a breathtaking architecture of swirling minerals and light, layered in loops as delicate as lace. Minutes after transmitting those images, the probe dissolved into the atmosphere, overwhelmed by a sudden rise in electrical potential. Its final broadcast contained nothing but a faint, harmonious humming sound, a resonance created by the charged winds passing through its damaged frame. This gentle hum became the unofficial anthem of early Stormscale exploration. It was a reminder that the planet did not reject visitors, but it did require them to move with patience, humility, and deep respect. Learning from those early losses, engineers developed atmospheric gliders specifically crafted for Stormscale's unique environment. These gliders did not resist the storms, they joined them. Built with adaptive magnetic wings and soft carbon filament frames, they drifted with the winds instead of fighting them. Their movement resembled the flight of the cloud weaver dragons that inhabited the higher skies. The gliders carried delicate instruments that listened rather than measured, allowing the craft to navigate by reading the subtle vibrations of the atmosphere. In effect, they flew not through the storms, but with them. The first glider to survive its mission was named Whisperlight. It circled Stormscale for 7 full days, capturing footage so calm and mesmerizing that many scientists admitted they watched it not for data, but for comfort. Whisperlight drifted alongside a particularly luminous storm dragon for nearly 13 hours, recording the slow movement of its glowing coils, the arcs of lightning that traced along its edges, and the soft halo that pulsed from its center. When the recording was later analyzed, researchers noticed something strange. The storm dragon's movements subtly matched the glider's gentle oscillations, almost as if responding to its presence. Whether this was coincidence or a natural resonance effect remains unknown, but the discovery added a new layer of intrigue to the planet's atmospheric behavior. Encouraged by these successes, the next stage of exploration was surface contact. Landing on Stormscale required extraordinary precision. The planet's crust was stable, but electrical surges could ripple unpredictably across mineral-rich terrain. The first lander, Sealnova 3, descended onto a quiet plateau near the edge of a luminescent forest. Its sensors detected fields of glowing trees, their bark pulsing softly in response to the magnetic currents above. As the lander settled, it deployed small autonomous walkers, each shaped like gentle spheres with flexible limbs. These tiny robots glided over the ground, their surfaces reflecting the shimmering air. One walker approached a cluster of storm orchids. As the breeze carried faint electrical charges across their petals, the orchids began to hum in a soft chorus. The walker recorded this gentle vibration, a sound so peaceful and so faint that many who heard it later described the experience as listening to the planet breathe. The hum varied in tone with each passing second, rising and falling like a lullaby carried by the wind. This moment marked the first time humanity heard the voice of Stormscale directly, not through instruments or distant sensors, but through the natural song of its living ecosystems. Later missions ventured deeper into the forests, through crystalline groves and along rivers that shimmered like molten silver. They documented herds of scalehounds wandering through the brush, their iridescent fur shifting colors as they interacted with one another. They observed sky rays drifting quietly between mountain peaks, their wings glowing softly in the silver surge season. And on one particularly serene evening during the luminous night, a glider captured footage of an auric drake hovering near its lights, its golden wings shaking gently, as if curious about the strange visitor from the stars. But perhaps the most extraordinary moment came during an expedition into Stormscale's upper atmosphere. A manned research vessel, riding thermals like a great mechanical bird, approached a region where storm dragons often spiraled into vast, slow-moving vortices. The crew listened through low-frequency sensors as deep, resonant vibrations echoed through the clouds. These were not sounds in the traditional sense, but magnetic tones, the kind produced by interactions between charged particles and atmospheric currents. The vibrations formed patterns, long, flowing waves that seemed to rise and fall in a rhythm. A scientist on board described it as a song too ancient to belong to any creature, and too gentle to belong to a storm. Some believe the tones were shaped by the movement of the stormcallers, the great dragons whose presence influenced the entire sky. As the vessel drifted deeper into the formation, the storm dragon overhead brightened, and the vibrations shifted into a new pattern, softer and more harmonious. For a moment, the crew felt as if the planet was acknowledging them. Not speaking, not warning, not calling, simply acknowledging. A recognition carried through light and atmosphere. As we drift further along our quiet orbit around Stormscale, the planet begins revealing one of its most elusive wonders. Beyond its dragon-filled skies, beyond the volcanic ridges and glowing cloud layers, there exists a phenomenon so gentle and so vast that many explorers describe it as the planet's dream made visible. These are the celestial rivers, soft streams of light and magnetic dust that weave through the upper atmosphere, flowing like liquid starlight. You may notice them now, faint but shimmering, curling around the planet's curvature like loose threads of a cosmic tapestry. The celestial rivers are born from the breath of the planet itself. Stormscale's mantle, dense with radiant minerals and dragon-formed crystalline vents, releases tiny particles into the stratosphere. When these particles meet the ionized winds that sweep across the planet's surface, they rise and scatter into a high-altitude drift. Each particle carries a faint glow, not bright enough to illuminate the darkness, but enough to create soft ribbons of color that wander slowly across the firmament. These gentle arcs move with a rhythm that feels more like breathing than weather, expanding and contracting in long, peaceful waves. As we glide through the quiet night side of the planet, those rivers thicken into luminous clouds. They move so slowly that they seem almost motionless, as if suspended between moments. Many travelers who have watched these drifting lights have reported a peculiar sensation, as though the planet were whispering through the glow, telling forgotten stories in a language made of silence. The dragons themselves interact with these rivers, using them as markers in the sky. Some species follow them as migratory paths, while others curl up within the densest pockets of light to rest, letting the shimmering dust coat their scales in delicate patterns. The orbits of Stormscale contribute to this dreamlike environment. The planet is locked in a gentle wobble, creating a soft, tilting motion that repeats over centuries. This wobble causes the celestial rivers to drift along predictable loops, circling the planet in wandering spirals rather than rigid lines. If you look closely, you might see how they wrap around the poles in slow braids, merging and separating like streams of water. This motion has a calming effect on the sky as a whole, smoothing the storms and allowing the dragons to glide with minimal resistance. Even the thunder here becomes softer, echoing with a low hum that blends seamlessly into the rhythmic glow. In ancient times, the earliest civilizations of Stormscale believed these celestial rivers were the dreams of the planet's first dragons. They imagined great celestial beasts resting in the astral plane, breathing out calm waves of light that descended into the sky below. While modern knowledge attributes the rivers to mineral dust and atmospheric currents, the old stories still linger in the minds of many. It is not difficult to understand why. Watching the lights drift across the heavens creates a sense of harmony that feels almost alive, as if an ancient presence is gently exhaling across the horizon. The whispering orbits, as some call them, have their own subtle music. It is not a melody in the traditional sense, but rather a series of faint oscillations, vibrations carried on the magnetic tides of the planet. Sensitive instruments can detect them as soft pulses that align with the flow of the rivers. Explorers who have spent long nights here often describe hearing faint tones in their minds, like distant chimes echoing through the vacuum. These sounds are never sharp or sudden. They rise and fall with the pace of drifting clouds, wrapping around the listener with a quiet, comforting resonance. Near the boundary of the upper atmosphere, the rivers grow thin and begin to dissolve into space. At that altitude, Stormscale's moons cast pale reflections onto the glowing streams, creating the illusion of pathways stretching outward toward the stars. The dragons who dwell higher in the sky sometimes glide along these paths, vanishing into the faint glow until their silhouettes fade like smoke. To the people of Stormscale, this moment is symbolic of transition, the step between the world below and the world above. Many believe the celestial rivers act as guides, showing every creature where the sky becomes the cosmos. As we continue drifting around the planet, the rivers slowly recede behind us, forming long trails that shimmer like distant galaxies. The glow becomes softer, dimming until only faint specks remain. But even as they fade, you may feel the calm they leave behind. Stormscale sky has a way of easing its viewers into stillness, allowing the mind to rest in the same slow rhythm as the drifting lights. The celestial rivers move on, always patient, always quiet, forming the gentle pulse of a world shaped by dragons and storms. And as we glide onward into the next region of the planet, the whispers of Stormscale's orbit encourage us to follow. There is more to discover, and each new revelation waits with the same serene, unhurried grace that defines this luminous world. As we drift into another tranquil region of Stormscale's atmosphere, the world slowly reshapes itself beneath us. The storms that once towered across the horizon settle into soft swirls of mist, and the celestial rivers fade into distant glimmers. Ahead, suspended among the clouds like drifting memories, lie the skyborne isles, a chain of floating sanctuaries that seem to defy gravity with quiet confidence. They rise gently from the planet's surface, drifting upward until they hover in the calm middle layers of the atmosphere, held aloft by pockets of heated minerals and ancient geomantic forces. Each island is a gentle world of its own. Some are no larger than a hilltop meadow, while others stretch like entire countries across the sky. Their surfaces are covered in lush mosses that glow faintly at dusk, creating an emerald shimmer that ripples across their fields. Soft vines hang from their edges, swaying with the breeze like the strands of an enormous celestial tapestry. When the sunlight touches them, the vines sparkle with the golden dust carried on the wind, dust born from the breath of distant dragons soaring far above. The skyborne isles move with a deliberate slowness, drifting along currents shaped by the planet's magnetic tides. From afar, they resemble ancient ships traversing a silent ocean of clouds, leaving no wake behind them. Many explorers have tried to chart their movements, but the paths shift subtly every year, changing direction with the gentle wobble of Stormscale's orbit. To watch them is to witness the patience of a world that measures time not in hours, but in centuries. In the oldest legends of Stormscale, these floating sanctuaries were said to be crafted by the first dragons. According to the tales, when the early world was still restless and unsettled, the dragons shaped pieces of the earth into great slabs of stone, lifted them into the sky, and infused them with the energies of the planet's glowing heart. Whether or not this is true remains a mystery, but fragments of radiant crystal can still be found embedded deep within each island. These crystals hum softly when touched, resonating with a warm tone that feels more like a heartbeat than a sound. Life thrives on these floating worlds. Moss-dwelling creatures with feather-like bodies glide across the fields, camouflaging themselves among the glowing plants. Slow-moving grazers roam the upper plateaus, feeding on the luminescent shrubs that grow near the island edges. On some isles, small dragons make their nests among clusters of mineral spires, resting beneath the warm glow they emit. These dragons are gentle, smaller than the storm breathers below, with wings that shimmer in iridescent colors. They spend much of their lives in peaceful solitude, gliding from island to island, following the soft chiming resonance of the crystals beneath their feet. If we listen carefully, we can hear those chimes now. A low, soothing hum rises from the heart of the nearest island, expanding outward in soft waves. The sound blends with the drifting wind until it becomes indistinguishable from the natural rhythm of the sky. Some explorers describe the experience as standing in the echo of a memory, familiar yet unreachable. To the dragons, these tones serve as markers, guiding them across vast stretches of sky with unwavering accuracy. To anyone else, the sound simply calms the mind, encouraging thoughts to sink into a gentle, quiet drift. When sunlight filters through the clouds, the skyborne isles cast slow-moving shadows across the landscape below. These shadows stretch like soft, wandering silhouettes, creating patterns on the surface of Stormscale that change with every passing hour. The people who once inhabited the planet considered these shadows sacred, believing that they carried blessings from the dragons who rested above. They built small shrines on the uppermost peaks, hoping that the drifting islands would occasionally hover overhead, allowing their sacred light to touch the ground. As we float past one of the larger sanctuaries, the atmosphere begins to cool, and the clouds part just enough for us to see the island's inner structure. Beneath its mossy surface, a network of glowing veins runs through the stone, pulsing faintly with the same color as the celestial rivers. The light is warm and steady, like a lantern guiding travelers through the night. Many believe these veins are remnants of Stormscale's earliest geological heartbeats, preserved through ages beyond understanding. The island drifts quietly past us, showing no sign of hurry. Nothing in this region ever seems rushed. Stormscale encourages even the sky itself to move with slow, deliberate grace. Watching the island's movement creates a feeling that time is stretching gently, unspooling in long, peaceful threads that lull the mind into stillness. As we leave the sky-born isles behind, their glow gradually fades into the soft haze of the upper atmosphere. But the chime of their crystals lingers faintly, as if carried on the memory of the wind. It invites us onward, deeper into Stormscale's unfolding dream, where each new horizon holds another secret suspended in calm, patient silence. As we descend from the drifting serenity of the sky-born isles, the clouds below us thicken into layers of mist tinted with soft blues and pale greens. The light grows dimmer, not because the sun has vanished, but because Stormscale's lower atmosphere absorbs sunlight in a gentle, diffused glow. Beneath these quiet clouds lies one of the planet's most ancient and hidden marvels, a vast underwater continent that stretches across the shadowed hemisphere. Many travelers refer to it simply as the submerged continent, though its true name, whispered in old dragon dialects, translates roughly to the land that dreams beneath the waves. The oceans of Stormscale are unlike those of most worlds. They shimmer with a faint internal glow, as though the water holds tiny fragments of fallen stars. This light comes from mineral-rich particles released by the planet's deep mantle, particles that scatter like dust and remain suspended in the water. As the tides move, the glow moves with them, creating gentle waves of radiance that ripple along the surface in slow, mesmerizing patterns. When seen from above, it looks as though the ocean is breathing, exhaling light with every rise and fall. As we draw closer to the waves, their colors shift from pale turquoise to deep sapphire. The surface grows calm, almost glass-like, reflecting the drifting clouds in smooth, unbroken shapes. It is here, beneath this serene veil, that the submerged continent rests. It is a land sculpted over millions of years, shaped by pressure, heat, and the patient movements of the planet's tectonic heart. Vast plateaus lie hidden beneath the glowing water, along with deep ravines that twist and wind like ancient rivers now turned to stone. The creatures that dwell here have adapted to both light and darkness. Some resemble elongated serpents with luminous patterns swirling along their bodies, patterns that brighten whenever they glide through mineral-rich currents. Others resemble great manta-like beings that drift lazily through the water, their wings spreading soft glows that pulse in rhythm with the tides. Closer to the plateau edges, small creatures with transparent shells gather in shimmering clusters, feeding on drifting particles of radiant dust. Dragons inhabit these waters as well. Aquatic dragons, peaceful and slow-moving, glide just above the seafloor. Their long bodies are covered in scales that refract light in calm, soothing hues. They communicate through low-frequency vibrations that travel through the water like soft, distant thunder. These vibrations resonate with the mineral formations buried in the continent below, creating a natural symphony that echoes through the ocean in warm, rhythmic waves. If we continue our descent, the glow around us begins to intensify. Deep within the submerged continent are the luminous tides, vast underwater currents charged with radiant minerals. These tides move with extraordinary patience, taking months to complete a single circuit around the ocean. As they flow, they illuminate the surrounding water in soft arcs that spiral upward and then drift outward across the sea. The dragons often follow these tides, allowing the gentle push of glowing water to carry them across great distances. The continent itself is not silent. Through the water, we can feel faint tremors, slow and gentle, as though the land is shifting in its sleep. These movements are not dangerous. They are simply the natural breathing of Stormscale's interior. Occasionally, a cluster of mineral spires releases a burst of glowing dust that rises in slow columns toward the surface. When these columns emerge from the waves at night, they create soft fountains of light, as if the ocean itself were sending signals into the sky. Ancient dragon legends speak of a time when the submerged continent was above water. They tell of vast temples carved into glowing cliffs, sanctuaries where early dragons gathered to rest in harmony with the tides. While these stories may be embellished, fragments of carved stone still lie buried within underwater ravines, covered in coral-like formations that emit soft blue light. These ruins stand quietly among the drifting currents, untouched and unhurried, slowly returning to the embrace of the sea. As we glide gently across the glowing depths, the water begins to darken once more, signaling our gradual ascent. The luminous patterns fade behind us, retreating into the calm silence of the ocean's heartbeat. Above the waves, the clouds shift softly, parting just enough for a distant beam of sunlight to touch the water, turning its surface into liquid silver. The submerged continent settles once again into quiet stillness, as though returning to its ancient dream. Its hidden lights ebb and flow beneath the waves, unbothered by time, unhurried by change, moving only with the slow rhythm of the planet's pulse. As we rise back into the gentle atmosphere, the world of Stormscale invites us onward. Another horizon awaits, wrapped in mist and mystery, calling for us to drift deeper into its tranquil wonders. As we leave the glowing waters of the submerged continent behind, the atmosphere around us begins to shift once more. The light dims into a gentle amber hue, and the air thickens with the soft tremors that pulse from deep within the planet. These tremors are not violent or alarming. They feel more like a calm heartbeat, steady and ancient. Stormscale has always been a world governed by quiet rhythms, and nowhere are those rhythms more apparent than in the dream caverns hidden deep beneath its surface. The descent is a slow one. Layers of stone and crystal drift past us, each glowing faintly with the minerals that define Stormscale's geology. As we sink deeper, the faint hum of the planet grows stronger, resonating in long, soothing waves that seem to vibrate through the very air. These vibrations have been present since Stormscale's earliest days, formed when the planet was still raw and molten. Over millions of years, the heat cooled, the stone hardened, and the vibrations settled into a patient, meditative pulse that radiates outward from the core. Eventually, a faint glow appears in the distance, soft and pale like the first hint of dawn. As we move toward it, the narrow walls expand, opening into a vast chamber that stretches farther than the eye can see. This is the threshold of the Dream Caverns, a sprawling labyrinth of crystalline halls shaped by time, pressure, and energies older than any living creature on Stormscale. The cavern is illuminated by crystalline formations that rise from the ground like sleeping giants. Their surfaces shimmer in gentle gradients of blue, gold, and silver, each color pulsing in harmony with the planet's heartbeat. The crystals grow in curved patterns, bending like branches of a tree shaped by an invisible wind. When you listen closely, you can hear faint echoes drifting between them. These echoes are not voices in the usual sense. They are more like memories carried by sound, fragments of the planet's own dreaming mind. Legend says that the Dream Caverns are where Stormscale first imagined its dragons into existence. The earliest beings of this world are said to have formed from the resonance of these crystals, shaped not from flesh, but from harmonic vibrations that slowly manifested into living form. Though modern understanding leans more toward natural evolution, the feeling within the cavern makes it easy to believe in such myths. Every surface seems to hum with quiet intention, and every shadow feels warm with the gentle presence of something ancient and benevolent. As we drift along the winding paths, the crystals shift in density, creating corridors that feel like the hallways of a natural cathedral. Soft streams of mineral-infused mist curl upward from the ground, glowing faintly in the dim light. These mists carry microscopic particles that drift lazily through the air, shimmering like tiny stars suspended in slow motion. Many explorers have described breathing this air as calming, as though each inhale brings a deeper sense of restfulness. Further within the cavern, we find pools of liquid crystal, their surfaces completely still. These pools reflect the glowing formations above them with such clarity that it becomes difficult to tell where the cavern ends and the reflection begins. The dragons of ancient times once came here to rest, lowering their heads toward the pools to listen to the deeper echoes resonating beneath the surface. These echoes were said to hold the dreams of the planet itself, recording eons of history in vibrations too subtle for ordinary senses. Some parts of the cavern drift into darkness, but the darkness is never threatening. It is soft and velvety, like the shadow of a peaceful night. When the glow becomes faint, faint trails of luminescent dust appear along the walls, guiding the way like starlight scattered across the stone. These trails are believed to be formed by creatures that dwell in the deeper layers of the cave. Tiny beings with translucent bodies crawl slowly along the surfaces, leaving behind paths of bioluminescent minerals. Their movement is so gradual that you might mistake them for static glitter, until a soft pulse of light reveals them drifting quietly across the stone. As we continue deeper, the cavern begins to open again into a circular chamber, vast and perfectly symmetrical. At its center lies a massive formation of crystal known as the heart spire. It rises from the ground in a spiraling column, its structure delicate yet impossibly strong. The heart spire vibrates with steady, hypnotic tones, each note resonating through the entire cavern system. Many believe this formation is directly connected to Stormscale's core, channeling its energy through the planet and shaping the balance of weather, tides, and life above. When the heart spire pulses, it feels as though the entire planet inhales and exhales in calm, gentle cycles. The dream caverns extend far beyond what we can see, branching into countless passageways that weave deeper and deeper toward the planet's molten heart. But even though the depths remain unseen, the atmosphere around us carries their presence. Every corner hums with the same patient rhythm, a reminder that Stormscale is always dreaming, always shaping, always nurturing the life upon its surface. As we slowly ascend back toward the upper layers of the cavern, the glow of the crystals begins to soften. Their colors fade into a gentle, diffused silver, and the heartbeat-like tremors become quieter, retreating into the depths below. The dream caverns remain behind us, vast and silent, resting in their ancient slumber. The world above awaits, ready to reveal yet another chapter of its serene wonders. And with the calm pulse of the caverns lingering in the air, we continue onward, guided by the quiet dreams of a planet forged in harmony. As our long journey draws to a gentle close, Stormscale settles once more into its quiet rhythms. The skies return to their soft, drifting hues, the oceans glow in patient waves, and the dream caverns beneath the surface continue their slow and ancient breathing. Every part of this world remains connected, woven together by calm cycles that have endured for ages. And in this stillness, Stormscale's future feels steady and serene. The dragons will continue their peaceful migrations across glowing skies. The floating isles will drift on the winds as they always have, guided by invisible harmonies. The luminous tides will rise and fall with quiet precision, shaping the life hidden beneath the waves. And deep within the planet's heart, the old crystals will keep dreaming, sending their gentle pulse through stone, ocean, and air. Stormscale is a world made not of chaos, but of balance. Its storms calm themselves. Its creatures move with patience. Its landscapes grow at the pace of thought. And as we leave this planet behind, its tranquility lingers with us, like a soft echo carried in the mind. Thank you for spending this time exploring Stormscale. Thank you for drifting through its skies, walking through its ancient caverns, and listening to the quiet stories it shared. May its calm follow you long after this journey ends.